The moment when my coworker realized who he'd been talking to all night, he looked like he wanted to disappear. My dad started this company 20 years ago, and 2 years ago he hired me as a technical editor. Almost nobody at work knows we're related. The few times people found out, they either acted weirdly nice or assumed I didn't earn my position. Keeping it private has always been easier. Last December was my first company holiday party. I almost skipped it, but that morning my dad asked if I was coming. I could tell he genuinely wanted me there, so I decided to show up. I arrived when the bar opened, planning to grab a drink, stay out of sight, and leave early. That plan lasted about 5 minutes. While ordering a beer, a guy next to me introduced himself as Trevor. Actually, introduced is the wrong word. He practically announced himself. He immediately started talking about how important he was to the company, how many projects he managed, and how everything would fall apart without him. Every time I tried to step away, he kept going. Without, then he spilled his drink on my sleeve. A few minutes later, he spilled another one on my other sleeve. Instead of apologizing, he laughed. By now he was clearly drunk, and the conversation somehow became even more unbearable. Then he leaned closer and said, "I'm also really close with the company president. We're basically family friends." That caught my attention. The company president is my dad, and I'd never heard this guy's name before. I decided to test him. "Oh really?" I asked. "You know his family too?" Without missing a beat, he nodded. "Of course. Great people. We've had dinner together a few times." The second he said that, I knew he was lying. My dad has always kept work and family completely separate. My brother and I have never had dinner with his employees. But instead of calling him out, I stayed quiet. I wanted to see where this went. A few minutes later, Trevor spotted a group of executives across the room. "I see some important people I need to talk to," he said. "No offense." Then he walked away. I stood there with wet sleeves and seriously considered leaving. But after 30 minutes of listening to this guy brag, lie, and talk down to me, I suddenly wanted to see how the night ended. As the evening went on, Trevor got louder and louder. Every group he joined heard another story about how connected he was and how much influence he supposedly had. The more he drank, the bigger the stories became. Near the end of the party, my mom texted me asking when I was leaving because my brother was picking my parents up. That's when I noticed Trevor standing near my parents and several executives. Perfect. I walked over and stood behind my dad. Trevor was in the middle of another story about a project he supposedly saved. When he noticed me, he gave me an annoyed look, like I was trying to impress management. Then my dad turned around. The moment he saw me, he smiled and pulled me into a hug. "There you are," he said. "Your brother just texted. He's outside." My mom asked if I enjoyed the party. My dad asked if I needed a ride home. I told him I drove myself. The look on Trevor's face was incredible. One second he looked confident. The next, all the color drained from his face. He stared at me, then at my parents, then back at me again. Like his brain couldn't process what he was seeing. Then my dad turned toward him. "Sorry," he said. "What were you saying about the shipment delays?" Trevor mumbled something that made absolutely no sense. Then he suddenly decided he needed to leave. Fast. He practically ran out the side exit. After he left, my dad asked what that was about. I just shrugged and said maybe he's not feeling well. I wasn't interested in getting him into trouble. But the aftermath was priceless. The following Monday, Trevor saw me in the hallway and immediately turned around. A few days later, I walked into the break room while he was heating lunch. The second he spotted me, he grabbed his food before it was even warm and left. This continued for nearly 2 months. And the funniest part, the guy who couldn't stop bragging about his connections suddenly became the quietest person in the entire office.